Hi, everyone. Welcome to our series on graphics. Let me get the camera on. Hi, everyone. I'm Ann Hine, embroidery software specialist for Janome America. And today we're on our third part of our four-part series on working with graphics. And this week we're going to talk about some of the stitch changes I made and some of the things that I did along the way. Now, the first week we went over converting our graphic, and last week we decided how we were going to convert it and work with it a little bit, and I gave you some options on that part. Now, the one thing is when you work with a graphic, there's never one road to take. There's no, you're going to start one way and there's lots of different options you can go. So I'm just trying to show you some different tools and different things that you can use to help you with those graphics that you're working with. So there isn't an A, B, and a C to do with graphics. Not really. There's a few probably things that you should remember to do. Like in the first video, I talked about changing the DPI down to 300, how to scale your image. Those kinds of things probably are important in the very beginning. But once we get into putting our stitches in there and playing with our stitches, a lot of that depends on where you're going to put it, what type of fabric you're going to put it on, the use of it. Is it going to be behind glass? Because if it's behind glass, if you have a little bit longer satin stitch, you might be okay. Because in a wearable, you wouldn't want a satin stitch that's more than 1/4 inch, really, because then that you can get your fingers caught on, fingernail caught on that or whatever. So that's one things to think about as you go along. So today I'm going to delve in a little bit more with our flower, and I've come up with 2 different petals that I like, and I'm going to show you those. I'm also going to show you how to duplicate if you do one petal, and that's what I did. Instead of drawing each one out, I did duplicate one petal. I got one where I liked it, and then I duplicated it around. I'm going to show you how to do that easily. And then I want to show you a little sample of compensation, pull compensation, so that you can understand that just a little bit better. And possibly when you're stitching yours out, if you have that issue, then you'll be able to work with it in the software. Okay, so let me go ahead and I'm going to open up my software and we'll get started. So here we go. And of course, we're starting right here on our welcome screen. I do already have some things open up here. And, my favorite way to look for things is through the browser. And I have the browser open here. I do have a USB stick in there. I don't have my machine on just yet, but let me see if I turn it on so you can see it'll connect up after a little bit. And I have my S9. I can turn that one on and we'll see if they connect up in just a bit. You do have to, if you're going wireless, you have to make sure when your machines come on that you clear off any of the windows that come up. And there we go. You can hear my little arm moving a bit. There we go. Let's see if there's any more windows. So if there's any messages on the screen, you do want to make sure that you clear those, or you won't be able to send. So now you can see on my screen that these both popped up. So I do have the CM17 and I do have my S9. If I want to send to either one of those, I can do that. All right, so let's start with what I ended up with. Last week I ended up with these 2 petals here, similar to this. This one here. I'm going to open this one. So I kind of decided this is what I want to work with, this type of a petal. And I stitched it out a couple different times. And I noticed when I stitched it out that this one seemed very thick. And I could play with the density on there, of course, but I also went up here into fabric and I changed it to smooth. And when I changed to smooth, it brought the stitch count down. So let me show you. If I go back up to normal, which I'm normally at normal. See how many stitches that is? It's 4,000 stitches at the moment. So if I go back in my fabric to smooth, there we go. We have that. And that keeps, let me see if that message will come up again. I did some editing earlier, and if I undo and redo, it might come back. I'm going to clear it instead of Xing it. I'm going to let it put those stitches back in it. So, and I also added this little outline, which I don't really need. So I could delete that out as well. Because when I was first stitching it, and I'll show you when we get in close here. Let me go in close. I was thinking it needed something under there. Let's delete it and see what happens. And it's all about the look. So I kind of like not seeing that line under there. So that I might go with that. And I stitched these out a couple different times. I played around with the layering of the colors. And as you can see in here, I changed my density to 0.35. So it's a very light density. Same thing on these. These are at 0.05 as well. So, and I changed the underlay to tacking. What did I do with the yellow? Yeah, same thing with tacking. So you can change this also. So depending on what you like under there, you might need more underlay with what you're doing, or maybe less is better if it's showing. Sometimes it shows through if you're trying to do a light stitch out. So you can use the fabric tool up here to your advantage. And the reason I use that is not that I picked any of these fabrics. It's the density that each of these is. So normal is a little bit, well, pretty much your normal density, I guess, but the most current, most popular one that you would use. And when I want something lighter, I really went into smooth. Now, if I go to normal light, let's see, we're at 963. So let's see if I do this. And I'm going to take care of that. Now I'm going to let it go back. And it went down to 627 on just these, on all of this. Yeah. And that one will go down as well. So you can change the density that way as well. For a whole piece, if you were, if you had an embroidery and you were like, ooh, you know what, I don't want to play with density for each part. Let me just bring it down first to a lesser density, and then I can play with the density from there. So it's, that's what I said. There's not just one way to go with this. There's different ways to go. So I'm going to put this back on smooth and okay. And in your manual, if you go to help, printable help, and you look for the thing on fabric, it'll explain the fabric and the embroidery category to you. So you'll get a little bit more information. And that would be up under here, under help. We have help topics or printable help. So that's where those are. All right, so I'm going to go over here to the flower and stem. So what I ended up doing is, this is my flower, and then I added the center now, and then I added these little pieces here just by drawing a little short line, and then I colored them. Now, one of the things you want to do also is to reorganize your or resequence your piece. So as you're working, and I think we're going to go over that next week. We'll do the final resequencing up there. But the one thing you want to remember about, when I'm working, I started with the petals, but then this part I know is going to be behind. And then I started doing some of the leaves, and I'm like, oh, that has to be even behind even more. So these pieces here, I'm going to bring my leaves down to the bottom. Let's see here. I'll grab all of them. And then I'm going to right click, order to front of design. So they're going to be down here now. Let's see what happens. Did they move? They didn't move. Let me undo that. Oh, I went the wrong way. Okay, back up. No, I want them in the front. Here we go. There we are. Now they're on top of that. So they're actually, and we could take care of that one too. So, undo that again. That's not what I wanted to do. There we go. So I created the flower, then I came in and created the leaves. So when I originally had them, they were all at the bottom of my sequence window up here. So they would stitch last, but I really want them to stitch first. They're one of the first things I stitch, unless the background is going to go first. And I don't know yet because we're going to do background next week. I'm going to talk about the background. So when I'm working along you'll want to resequence your piece as you go. Let me do the copy and paste of these petals so I can show you that, and then we'll resequence those so it'll be a little easier for you to understand that. We do have several videos on resequencing, so it's, you can always come in here and you can click on it and drag it up and down if you want, or you can right click on it and go to order and decide where you want to send it. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to take just one of these petals, and I think I'll take this one here. And so what I did is I brought the one petal in and I copied it in all the places, and then I went around and changed them just slightly. Each one, that's not what I want. I want to take that, this, and this part. There we go. And I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to go to a new page, but what I want to do is I want to open this as a backdrop, so that I can lay my petals on there. So I don't have to do anything because it's just a backdrop. And then I'm going to paste. So there's my piece on there. And you can see that this is a little bit bigger than that. And I can change it by going to View. This is my backdrop, Properties. And I'm going to move this to the side here. And right here, this little dot at the bottom, this here resizes the scale. So I can bring it down to like 75. And you can use your cursor with that, and you can with your mouse, or once you get it going, you can use your arrow keys to bring it down. So there we go. I'm going to take all of that and bring it down here like this. So it's sort of in there. All right. And I'll close this window. So I have my piece here. This side over here, I'm noticing, oh, look, it's doing something weird on that side. So let me ungroup it. So I left click to select it, and I right click to ungroup, and there's ungroup. And then I'm just going to select the brown one and edit nodes. And I'm going to take some of these nodes away. So I think I'm going to take this. I'm just going to click on it and delete. Click on that one, delete. Click on this one and delete. And then when I do this, I can take this arrow and make that go upwards like that. And I may want to tuck this inside here just a little bit so that those all move over. So let me see what happens with that. I know it's giving me this part here which doesn't want to move. So I may have to select that again and see if I can get some of these nodes to move for me. Because I have a tiny piece here, see some of it's, yeah, I'm going to go back to my normal one. I think I'll be okay. There we go. Now it goes back in and we're good. Okay, that's X out of there. So there's my petal, and now I want to put it all the way around, and then I can edit the insides of them if I want to. So to do that easily, what you're going to do is I need to get all three of these parts selected. And then once I do that, because I want to rotate, I'm going to move out just a little bit. I'm going to click on the corner handle to make the rotate comes up. And then in the center, this little plus, I'm going to move that down into the center here. This means my petals will copy around the center. Does that make sense? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to move this over. So I'm left clicking on the corner and then I'm going to click on D on my keyboard. And now I have a copy of that. And then if I do Command and R or Control R if you're on a PC, I can copy these all the way around. One more. It's thinking about it. I think it gave me one extra one. Let me see if I undo one. There we go. All right, I've got them all in there. So that wasn't so hard, and that looks pretty good. I went through on mine and I redistributed the brown a little bit just to see, if it would be in a work out in a better spot, whatever, you know, to make them look, because they don't have to be perfectly matched. It's a flower, it's nature. So I would do that. So that's easy to do. So let me go back. I'm going to go back and show you that again. So you have that. So you have your one piece there. Click on your corner. So you have your rotate handles. Take the plus in the center, bring it to the part that you want it to rotate around. And then you're going to, let me bring this down a little bit. Then you're going to left click on a corner handle. And as you drag it, touch the letter D on your keyboard. D as in dog. Let me try that again because oops. Let go. Hang on a second. There we go. Let me undo this because okay, here we go. Let's put this back in the center. Start rotating, and after you rotate a little bit, click D and then let go. There it is. Now just touch Command R for repeat or Control R for repeat. And then you're just going to, there it goes. There we go. And I could put that one extra one there, but I think I'm going to undo that extra one. There we go. And we're all set there. So that's how you do that. And I could still move them around a little bit if I wanted to, bring them in closer, take them out. Maybe my petal actually needs to be smaller altogether, so I can resize that as well. So I have all those options with me. Now, after I got done playing with this one, I was thinking, you know, what if I liked a satin here instead of the step fill? Step fill is kind of flat in a way. And with a satin, you can, it would look maybe a little more dimensional on there than flat. So I selected my petal, this color here, and in my properties, I did satin. And then make sure I had add short long, because when you do that, it's not just one long satin stitch. It will give you short ones and long ones and short ones and long ones as you go. And then I went to stitch flow. And in stitch flow with satin, you have direction and divide. Now, divide are the green ones. And so I divided my petals up like this to give it a little bit of dimension. And then using the red for click on direction, red sets the direction of your stitches. So I can show you like that. So they go like that. So I just went around with each one and divide. Let's see, I did divide. Let's do direction. This one, I don't think I had any direction in there. You can go like this just to get some of that direction, depending on which way you want to do it. You can put your little dot on the outside or on the line that you did your direction from, like so. If you're in divide, divide needs to go from the edge to another divide. It can't go to a direction. It has to go on a divide line or over on, let's take a look at that, or over on the, let's go back to stitch flow. And I'm just putting some of these in here. I love divide because it gives you some nice creases. There we go. Well, come on, that's where let's get a new one. There we go. You can put some interesting creases in there, and these are shorter stitches. So if we looked at these as stitches, and I went in here to stitches, hang on one second. So we are in manual. As long as we're in manual, let's select that and then go to edit. There we go. So you can see the stitches are where those creases are. So it's a good way to change your stitches. Now, another thing you can do is if you're working with satin is the thing I did with my petals. First, I was down here and I used this one here. And this one was just a plain satin. And then I went into my patterns and I chose wide satin. And after you choose wide satin, you can change the length of your stitch to get the look here. So let's see if we went to, there we go. So if I made my length bigger, you can see the spacing got bigger. If I make my stitch length smaller, you're going to get more ridges in there. And then when you have a satin and you go to stitch flow, you again, you have your direction, you have your direction and then your divide on there. So you have those two things. So you can go back and forth between those. So my direction, I made them curve a little bit, and then my divide, well, actually that's my, hang on a second. Yeah, that would be divide. I don't have, let me undo that. So when I did my divide down here, I bent it a little bit. There we go. So you can see it instead of a true divide. And then for direction, I wanted all the stitches to go up. And this little line in here, I just drew that in. That's a stitch pattern, a running stitch outline. And then I went to bean gap. To find bean gap in the search, just put B and you'll find bean gap. So I did one like that. Let me undo those because I like the other way like I had it. Maybe one more. There we go. And then, there we go. And then over here, I was playing around with patterns. So in this one, when I selected it under fill, I went to the patterns and I chose broken lines 2. And then once I was there, I went to stitch flow and I made my my line in here. So I was under divide and I drew my line and then I put my cursor on it and moved it a little bit to bend it. And once I got it bent, then I put my stitch line on top of there. And then in direction, I just placed where I wanted if I wanted those to go in a certain direction. So you could make your stitches go in a different direction. Now, sometimes when you do that, it changes the stitch, so it gives you shading and things like that. So you can kind of play around with that part of it. And I didn't play with the stem as much. Let me undo here so I know where I'm back to. There we go. Right now, I didn't play around much with the stem. I just kind of left that there. So that takes care of that. Now, the brown center, let's look at that. On the brown center, I decided, let's see, it's got to be back here. Here we go. I just used the shapes tool and made a circle and I put it in the proper spot. So let me delete this and I'll show you. So if I wanted to put a brown shape behind there, I'm just going to click and drag. Now I have mine set to come in as a green outline and a red fill. So I'm going to delete the outline because I don't need an outline. But my red fill, I'm going to go to my colors and I'm actually using Marathon for this one. So I'm coming down in here and I'm just going to pick a really, maybe this dark brownish purple here. Now it's in the wrong spot, correct? So it's down here at the end. So I am going to, I can drag it up like this, depending on where it has to go. But it has to go really behind the petal. So it needs to go at the top. So it's easier to go here and go to order and then back of design. So now it's behind there underneath all of those. And you can see how that changes it. So now I've got it in the right order in there. I'm not sure what these are. I think I have some ghost things in here. Oh, I see what that. There we go. All right. And then for the, when you want to reorder these, what I did is down here, I right click on the color, say select by color, and it selects all of these. And if they were in different spots, they would group up and then I could drag them around and put them, maybe I want them to stitch right after the brown. And actually I have them stitching after the green, but I think we're okay. So there we go. And a trick is if I want it to be at the top, let's say this one here is that color. Let's see if and I'm going to do select by color, and then I can send that to the top, order, to back of design, and then go to the top, use the little slider, and here they are here, but they're above the brown. So I'm going to click on them and drag, left click, drag, and put them over here. So you can find them that way easily too. Oh, I see what it took out. Some of my little creases are gone. That's what that was for. Okay, so those are the things I wanted to show you today on working with your design. So you have some options of going into your properties and choosing stitch patterns like we did down here. And don't be afraid for that, because I mean, even here, this is the wide satin in here. And to find wide satin, when you come in here, just put up here wide, and it'll take you to wide satin. I'm not sure what this one is. That looks like a satin, but it's maybe more of a weave. Let's see what that looks like as edit stitches. Oh, lots of little stitches in there. So that might be, see the texture in there. I kind of like that too. So you might find you like it that way. This one here is, when I go under stitches, this is 6,000 stitches. If I go back to what I had, let's select it again, it's only 1,600 stitches. So that's the thing to think about too, is when you change to some of those patterns, they become very, there's a lot in there. So you can test stitch parts of your design. And that's what I've been doing, test stitching parts of it. So it makes it a little bit easier to see what you're doing. All right, so one last thing before we go back to the camera. As you're going along, I don't know if you've noticed, I have my name here is 2 satin flower and stem, 2 petals. As I made changes, I saved it again by going to file at well, on mine it's way up here, you can't see it, but it's file, save as, and then I put it in the same spot. It's under my graphics class. There's the name. I might change it to number 3, so that I'll have a 2 and a 3 now in there, so I can go back between them, because I made some changes here, and unless I do a lot of undos, I won't know where I am. So as I work along, if I make a bunch of changes, I'll go up and I'll change it again, save it again with a different name. That way I can keep track, and later on I can go back and delete everything. I don't have to keep all of that in there. Now let me show you how pull compensation works. So let me go get my little sample here. I think it's in here. Here we go. So I created 2 circles, and I just put them on top of each other. I'm going to select auto up here so you can see that when this is laid on top, it does, the remove overlaps is on. So what might happen is when these 2 are stitched, maybe the blue is stitched first, and when the red starts to stitch, it doesn't quite go to the blue because the blue has it shrunk a bit. So you can work with either one of these, but I want to show you up close how this works. So I'm going to select the red, and I'm going to go to edit stitches, and I'm going to get in here really close so you can see those stitches. All right, so there we go. So see how just a little bit that the blue is underneath the red. All right, so if the blue was tight and maybe the fabric shrunk up, whatever, there might be a gap. Your red might not go all the way there. So you could add to your compensation. So here in your properties, under fill, because I have that one selected, compensation, I could change this. I'm going to do it really dramatic. So I'm going to do 0.3 and hit enter. And then I'm just going to hit selection. And then I'm going to go back to edit stitches. See, now it's really overlapped. So you can see how much that moves it. Now you might not want to go that far. That's quite a bit. So if you measured that, let me see here. Where's my measure tool? Yeah, that's not even a 1/4 inch. It looks like it's a lot, but it's not that much. I could have done it with the blue part. So let's select the blue. Hang on a second here. Now my blue is selected. So let's go to stitches there. And actually, what I'm going to undo, and go back with the red. So the red is back where it belongs. I'm going to do the blue. Now the blue is going to be underneath the red, but I can still do the compensation there. And let's see if I do that at 0.3 and then hit select and go back to edit stitches. And you can see now the blue is going to be underneath the red. Now that works in some of the spots, but look here over on this side. Let me go down, I'm trying to get to the right spot here. When you go down the side of this, you can see how close it is. So, here, that's how far the blue went. You might want to use the compensation on the red in this part. Let's just pretend, and we'll put it at 0.3. That's kind of dramatic. But then select and then stitches. There you go. So you can see how it covers. So sometimes you have to do it to both pieces to make it work. All right. So hopefully that'll help you when you're working. Now this works with other other designs you're working on too, but it doesn't work on a ready-made embroidery design unless you convert it to curves, and that's a whole other topic that we'll have to talk at another time. I'm going to put the camera back on, and here we go. All right, so hopefully this is helping you learn a little bit more about working with graphics. I can't show you and tell you everything in like 3 or 4 videos at a time, but one of the things as you create more projects, whether they're working with a graphic or maybe you're using applique and stitches, all those times when you're using the software, you're learning more tools and more ways to manipulate things in the software. Because as I said, working with a graphic, it isn't always just one way to go. There's lots of different ways that you can go, lots of different directions. So, have a patience with that when you're working with your graphics. And if you have questions, be sure to post them below. I'll be coming back later to answer all of those. Next week, we wrap it up. We're going to be talking about our background. What are we going to do about the background? Are we going to use the background? Are we not going to use the background? How's that all going to work? All right. So we'll see you all for now, everyone. Thank you for joining me in the studio. Bye-bye.